Well, thanks for tuning in to part 2 of my video. In this video, I'm going to be recording a short section of Build Your Kingdom here. It'll be about a minute or so long. So whether you're a fan or you're recording music yourself, I hope that you can get some insight into how I've been making my music. A few disclaimers. First of all, I'm not an expert at recording. I've been learning as I'm going, and so there's a lot of things that I know, and there's a lot that I still don't know. I've simplified this recording. If you compare the version that I'm recording today with the version that's on the album, they're actually quite different. With the album version, I meticulously went through so many of the parts with the tuning, the timing, the volumes, all of those things. Even the vocals today, I'll just have one vocal track, whereas on the album there are actually 9 layered vocal tracks. Also, another disclaimer, my singing, I can't sing well, so you'll see a little bit later on that I definitely am not American Idol worthy, but I can show you how with technology you can do quite good with getting your sound to be pretty close in tune. And then if you have feedback, I'd be happy to hear any feedback, any constructive criticism, but do remember that I am recording this at home. I've been doing this just for my own fun and my enjoyment and thought I'd pass it on for you. Alright, so for this recording, what I'm going to be doing is first recording the drums, then the guitars. There's 3 guitar parts that I'll record. After that, I'll add in the bass guitar, then the vocals, and then a guitar tap, which is kind of a special effect. So first what I'm going to do is open up Cakewalk and start a brand new project without any tracks. The first track I'll do is a drum track. And then I'll get my drum machine set up, which is the Drummer Friend HD. You can see here I've got the snare, the kick, all of those things added in as I want. I'm not going through that process of how I program that, but I did program that myself. I made it pretty simple so that basically this song is just an introduction, a verse, and a chorus, which makes it so I don't really have to do much switching back and forth on Drummer Friend HD. And so I'm recording the song right now. Basically just play it, record it, and let it do its thing. Do make sure that nothing is peaking out. You can always amplify things, but you can't take any peaks if it's too loud. You can't take that out later. So on Drummer Friend HD, you can see there's actually a lot of buttons for adding fills and things like that. This song I kept pretty simple, so there isn't a lot of that. This part is sped up, and then it's finished. When I'm finished, I trim off the front, the back, fade it in just in case there was any extra noise in the background, and then fade out that end part. Then what I'm going to do is add some effects. The first effect I want to do is add some compression just to make sure that it's nice and level and as loud as it can be. And so I've already preset a drum compression that works well with my Drummer Friend HD. Obviously you would have to play around with that if you're recording at home. You can't just copy and paste my settings. Next, I'm going to add some reverb, just so that the drum sounds like it's actually being played in a room and not just from a drum machine. And again, that's a reverb setting that I've set that I enjoy. And then the third thing I'm going to do is add some effects. I'm going to give the kick a little bit of a punch and the snare a little bit of punch as well. That makes it a little bit more poppy. And again, you have to tune this to your drum, not to mine. You can't just copy and paste my settings. So now my drum machine is done. And the drum part is done, so now I'm going to move on to adding the tracks for my guitars. For the guitars, I'm actually going to need to add 3 tracks. The first 2 are my left and right for the distorted guitar, and then the third one later is going to be for the introduction part, which is a clean guitar. Obviously, you want to label those clearly so that later on you don't have any problems remembering which track is which. Alright, so I'm ready to record my introduction part, which is the clean guitar. Here you'll be able to hear what my guitar sounds like both before and afterwards. Again, once I'm finished, I'm going to crop the beginning, crop the end, and then also shift over, because there is latency or delay when you record, and so you need to shift that over. For me, it was about 50 milliseconds to get it queued up and cleaned up correctly. Now I'm going to record the electric part, and you'll be able to hear that it's an acoustic guitar coming in, and then the distorted guitar that comes out. And I'll do left and then right. The reason I do left and right is so that you get a fuller sound with the distortion, and you'll be able to hear that in the mix. I think I mentioned in the first video, if you don't have a distortion pedal, you can actually use the plugins that are built into Cakewalk to add distortion, add compression, all of those things. Skipping through, didn't let you see the rest of that just because I want to move this video along. So now I'm going to record the right side distorted guitar as well. Hopefully I'm playing these exactly the same, but even if I play them exactly the same, they're still only 99% the same, and so there will be a difference between the left side and the right side. Cutting it a little bit short just to save some time here. So now I need to crop the beginnings, crop the ends, fade those in because there's definitely noise that comes in, especially because I'm using the electric guitar. And you can even see that it doesn't quite line up. When I started, it sounds like it starts together, but when you actually see it digitally, you can see that it's actually, I started guitar hair early. And so I'm going to listen through and try to make that sound correct. I'm going to trim off some of the introduction guitar where I maybe went too far. And now I want to add some effects to the guitars. The first thing I'm going to do is split the left and the right. I usually pan about 70 or 80% to left and 70-80% to the right. Not fully because then it's too separated. I do want them to blend together and still sound like they are playing together and not just 100% separate. Now I'm using M Audio's M spectral pan, which basically allows you to pass some of the frequencies from the left side to the right side or the right side to the left side, and this just helps blend the guitars together better. And then finally with the clean guitar, I'm going to crop, of course, the beginning and the end, and once I'm done with that, then I'm going to add an EQ because I want it to sound not like an acoustic guitar, but like a clean electric guitar, and so I'm going to drop the bottom end and a little bit of the top end or the low EQ and the high EQ off, and you can see me doing this now. And I also want to add some reverb just to make the sound a little bit fuller. And always listen through and see what it sounds like, because even if you're using the settings you've used many times, it may just sound different because maybe you recorded the guitar a little bit louder or something was just a little bit different. So now I'm going to add the next part, which is going to be my bass guitar. For the bass guitar, I am just playing my acoustic guitar, the bottom string or the bottom two strings on it, just like I would a bass, but I'm using a pick. And as you can hear, it sounds just like I'm playing the lowest strings on an acoustic guitar. I wish I had a bass guitar, but I don't, so I'm making do with what I have. So after I record the bass, I'm going to clip off the front and the back. Then you can see what I'm doing here is I just wanted to quickly show you that you can change the audio transients, which means you're pushing forward and adjusting your timing either forwards or backwards. With the bass guitar on my album, I actually went through every single note that I played on the bass guitar and tried to line those up as best as possible with the drum beat. But on this song, I have not done that just because of time. I want to keep this short and simple. and then I'm going to drop it down an octave, which means basically it's still the same note, but it's 12 half steps or a full octave lower, which is what a bass guitar typically is tuned at, is still an E, but the lower E. Then I'm going to start adding some effects to the bass guitar. The first thing I'm going to do is just take out the EQ. I'm going to take out pretty much the entire mid and top end so that it sounds much more bassy and not any of the treble or the twang that you would get with an acoustic guitar. I'm then going to add some compression, quite a lot of compression, because I want the bass sound to be as constant as possible, even if it means kind of getting rid of some of the dynamic that a bass guitar might have. Next thing I'm going to do is run it through. Cakewalk has a lot of built-in guitar effects. This is just a bass guitar amp speaker set, and it really does give it a bass guitar sound. The next thing I'm going to do is add some reverb just to help the bass sound a little bit more full and constant. And the last thing I want to do is add some stereo expansion, which is a bass preset for M Audio. They're free plugins that you can get. So all of the plugins that I'm using here in Cakewalk are either built into Cakewalk or they're from the M Audio free pack that you can download online. The last thing that I'm going to do is record my vocals. So apologies again, I can't sing. I'm just doing my best here to make some fun music.
Come set your rule and reign in our hearts again. Increasing us we pray, unveil what we're made. Come set our hearts again. Get our belly so Holy Spirit come invade us now. We are your church.
Once I'm done recording the vocals, I'm going to trim off the beginning, the end, and then I'm going to open up Melodyne. And with Melodyne, what you need to do is actually re-record into Melodyne. So the sound is in Cakewalk right now, and Melodyne doesn't read directly from Cakewalk. So what you do is you actually transfer it from Cakewalk into Melodyne. Once that's done, it uses its software to go and try to pitch it and shows you graphically, as you can see here, all the pitch. And then I will go through and fine-tune, pull things down or up to match the melody of the song. I'll listen as I go because sometimes what I remember, the notes aren't exactly right, or I want to change it. Maybe it's actually not exactly like the original song, but I think it sounds better. Do make sure you put the key in correctly so that you know which notes are in that key, which notes are not. That helps you just get it lined up much better. This process takes about 5 or 10 minutes. Depending on how quick you are and how, I guess, bad you sang. So when I'm done, then what I'll do is I'll get all of it, and I like to take out a lot of the vibrato just because my vocals go up and down a lot. And so when you take out the vibrato, it helps a lot for me. And then some other features that are in Melodyne. The first one is when you go note to note, you can actually blend that a little bit more cleanly, or you can make it a hard change in the note change, and that just depends on the song and what you want. The other thing that you can do is that vibrato you can adjust individually note by note, and then also there is a pitch bend or pitch drift tool. So that means if maybe the beginning of the note was on pitch but then you kind of got off towards the end, you can adjust that. You can adjust the amplitude to make one note louder or not so loud, or you can just take it out altogether. You can also change the timing in Melodyne. And then the other thing that I found was really helpful is you can change the timing of when the note changes, and this helps when you want to blend one note into the next. And after I'm done doing everything I need to do in Melodyne, then I'll open up and start adding effects. The first effect that I'm going to do is add some compression just to keep the vocals at a more constant level. Be careful you don't add too much, but again, this is something that's your preference on how much you want to add. After that, I'm going to add some reverb because it needs reverb in my vocals, definitely. And so I'll add the reverb in. Then I'll change the compression a little bit just to make it sound a little bit better. Adjust the reverb, too much reverb, let's bring it down. And then I want to add some EQ because my vocals especially have a lot of bass in them and I don't need that bass, so I'll take that out. And the last thing I'm going to do is add that stereo, the spectral pan, just to help the vocals blend in the mix a little bit better. The last thing that I want to do is add my guitar taps. The guitar taps I've added just to add a little bit more percussion, just to make the sound more interesting. On this one, I really didn't take very long practicing and trying to tap correctly, so I apologize because my taps are pretty off. But on the actual CD, I did do it pretty close and then adjusted it with the timing or the audio transients inside of Cakewalk. One note about doing the audio transients inside of Cakewalk, you need to be careful. Sometimes it does it really well, and sometimes it adds a lot of artifacts. So just be careful, be mindful of listening after you adjust it to make sure it sounds clean. Of course, we want to trim the beginning and the end and make sure I added one extra tap there, so I just cut that off completely. You can see this is the audio transients, what it would look like, but I actually adjusted it too early, and now I need to go back, bump it over that 50 milliseconds, and then I would go through and adjust these to be perfect, but again, this is just more of a demo version, so I don't care that much. The last thing that I want to do is listen to the mix and bring down volumes that are too loud and adjust that. Again, I didn't take very long going through and trying to mix this perfectly just because this is a demo, but you would really want to listen on different headphones, maybe go away, come back and listen again just to make sure one part isn't too loud or too soft. Well, that's it. Thanks so much for sticking with me until the end. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you want to hear more of my music and just enjoy that. Leave comments below. Check out our music on whatever digital music source that you use. And thanks so much for watching. God bless.